So Merritt has a great story about her adventure, how she went from the walking runaways as fashion model to building this kind of cool and cutting-edge applications like Meet, which allows all professionals worldwide to work remotely and get paid. So, Merritt, now stage is yours, and you can start your presentation.
All right, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Hi, everyone. I am Merritt. I am CEO of both MeetGreet and Me, and I'm here today to talk to you about how I went from fashion, embracing magazine covers, to building these platforms. So we're going to start with where I started and look a little bit at my background in fashion. Okay, so I went from doing all of these major campaigns, walking runways and doing fashion shows and stuff. And doing that, it gave me the opportunity to essentially travel the world and work with all of these phenomenal artists. And from doing that, I started to learn to understand the power of media and how interconnectedness the entire world was. Essentially, I would go to a shoot and I would be wearing something, and people would look at it and they would be like, oh, can we use this in the campaign? Or if I was doing something, I would be like, sure. And the next thing I know, the campaign or the shoot or something would come out and everybody in the world would be wearing it or they would be doing it. And I grew to understand quickly the power of media and how I could impact people through it. And it that really fixated me. Like, I was so fascinated by this. So I started in my free time shooting this little documentary in New York City called If You Had the Power to Do Anything, What 3 Things Would You Do to Change the World? And at the time, most people I recognized really weren't empowered with any thoughts like that or how they could give back and change the world or help the world or do anything in any way. People would say, oh, I would have world peace, and they couldn't think of anything else. Or they'd look at the sidewalk and they'd be like, oh, I'd fix the cracks in the sidewalk. So I started to understand most people weren't understanding the world. And I wanted to build a platform or build something that would allow them to give back and start to understand that every little thing that they did could influence the world and that we all sort of played a bigger part in that picture. And so whenever I travel, I was always writing business concepts or reality shows, stuff like that. I love to create. And so when I would be on an airplane or I had time off, this is what I did in my spare time. And so the first platform that I ever wrote was something called The Giving. And it was essentially a community builder that allowed people to basically build up their local community. So if somebody needed like a coat for their kid or their house burned down and they needed stuff, they could go on there and write what they needed, and people could come on having a bad day or they just wanted to give back, see what the needs were and fulfill the needs and put their name by, I did this for so-and-so. And so it was a great idea. I took it to my next door neighbor, who was one of my best friends at the time. And I was like, what do you think? How could I build it? It was one of the heads at the NYU Tech Lab. And he was like, yeah, you can. He's like, build this, but it's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to need servers, those are big. You're going to need a team. And I was like, so you're telling me it's possible? And he was like, it's definitely possible, but you're going to need money. So I was like, okay, let me go. So I went to a lot of my friends in New York. I was a big model, so I had a lot of friends. And I was like, guys, what do you, would you be interested in investing in this thing? I think this could really be huge, really helpful. And they were like, we just don't see it. Why are people going to want to give someone a coat, or why would they want to volunteer their time or give back? And at the time, nothing really existed in social media, maybe Friendster or Space or something. There was really nothing out there that was anything like this. So they didn't understand the potential, and they didn't see how they their money, so they weren't interested in it. But I still had all of these ideas, and I was writing those, and so I was like, okay, well, I have to do this. Obviously, it's in me. And so I packed up and I moved to LA. And in LA, I started pitching reality shows and pitching apps to investors. And it was pretty quickly I recognized that people were more interested in my ideas than actually investing in me to do the ideas. I had a couple ideas that were taken from me, or people wanted me to be in front of the camera, behind the camera. which wasn't what I really wanted to do. So after I had those ideas taken from me, I knew I had to basically come up with a way to protect myself and to get funded. So I figured if I had a patent, then I could actually protect my ideas and get funding. So I went to see one of my good friends in San Francisco. I was a professor at a college there, and I filed for my first patent for mobile device media streaming applications. I knew I wanted to build a platform that would be streaming content to you, mixed media content. So you could basically add songs or a picture or whatever together and have that streamed. And it was important to me that people could buy and sell within that stream so you could make money, as well as if it was a live streaming feed that people could donate it through tipping or whatever and get paid, make money. So I back to LA and I started pitching it after I filed for the proposal. And people still didn't get it. They were just like, I don't think that, people, you have streaming on a mobile phone. Like, why would people want to get content in this way? And so at that point, you recognize YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. None of them even had apps. They weren't on mobile devices yet. They were only on web platforms. So people didn't understand the power of mobile, or they just didn't connect that people would want to use something in that form. And iPads didn't exist even at this point when I filed for my IP. So I knew I was going to have to get those patents before I was essentially going to be able to fund my company. So I went back and I played a game. In 2014, my first patent was issued for mobile device streaming and applications, and I quickly packed up and went to Seattle and started building a company there. I got a team together, CTO and everybody, and we built Weeple, which was basically social navigation around group streaming. So you could basically use private groups to either stream out in live or post content, and it was beautiful. We had a great MVP to some conferences. Got invited to Menlo Park, and in Menlo Park, they were like, okay, well, how are, like they were like, what you built is better than anything we've seen, but who are we going to fund a woman? And I was like, well, that's why I'm here. You guys fund, right? Like, isn't that what you guys do? And they were like, well, you're just a little bit early for us. So let's try to come up with who would actually fund something like this. So they sent me to see like the 5 people in San Francisco that actually fund women at the time, or they thought would. This was in like 2015. And so two of them were working on some kind of a live streaming thing already, or one of their husbands was. And so Meerkat and Periscope had come out right around the same time, and they were getting a lot of attention. And so people were starting to understand streaming and what the possibility. They were completely different since we were built around group navigation and public and private streaming. So it was a completely different way to navigate and on a device how you would in real life. So we ended up not getting funded. So we went back to Seattle. I met with some of the VCs there, Drone and some others, and they essentially were like, same thing, get traction, have a revenue stream. They were saying at that point, like, you got to be making money before someone's going to fund you. So I was like, okay, so I need a revenue stream. We're being on the horizon. So like, what enough? Like, well, I'll get the users and come back. So soon after that, my CTO was actually, his son was diagnosed with autism. And so he couldn't really continue without us being funded. And I understood that. And so sort of after that, the team dissipated, and I was still going to go forward with what we built, and I started looking for an outsourced team. I was going to change the way going about it, cut my costs, and just strap the thing. So I went through a few teams before I found the development team that I absolutely loved, and started building the tipping feature. And it took them a little bit longer than what they thought. So probably a few months over. And so by the time we were live with on all content, other apps had come out that tipping. Live Me had just gotten a lot of money. These apps were getting massive funding with $1 billion valuations. So I knew for me to I'm always 5 steps ahead in mobile for things that don't exist. So at that point, I already knew that I wanted to build Meet. I had already filed for preliminary patents on the paid by the minute video chat, and I had already drawn out how you could actually post your time and get paid by the minute. So I knew how I was going to do that. Instead of putting that in Weeple, I decided I was going to build out an entire new platform for it. I knew that there was a need because as a model, I had wherever I go in the world, I had fans. And so I knew that if I had something like Meet when I was modeling, no matter where I was in the world, I could meet with those fans and get paid for my time. I also knew I was always asked questions like, how did I start modeling, or how can I get my modeling, or what to expect if my kid starts modeling, they want to model, what's it really like? So I knew there's also need for people to give advice or to be able to ask professionals, is this what I do for the rest of my life or whatever, so that they could interact. And so I knew that if I built something like in Meet, that there was a something like this remotely where people could get paid for their time. So I went to a team. I did the exact opposite. I outsourced it first. I found a development team that I liked in LA, because I knew I wanted to set up offices there. And I built MeetGreet. It took us about 6 months. We beta tested a couple of times. We got amazing reviews. It was running like beautifully. Everybody loved this. They were like, game changer. This years ago. And we submitted it to Apple with AIP, and Apple was like, nope, we're not going to approve this. Initially, they thought it was like for, porn or something like that, and it was not at all. And so finally we explained that wasn't it, and then we just kept going back and forth. They kept wanting changes, and now it's been finally approved. But before it was, I ended up going back to my other development team. I called them and I had asked if they could help me get this app approved, and they were like, we can try. And in the process of them working to get the app approved, they were like, why don't we just build an app, use your idea, which is so great, and your patents, and build something that's just separate for like professionals, and like a doctor on demand, professionals control around the time and schedule, and they can name their own price to get paid for it. And that way we don't have to use AIP. We just do it for professionals and go for the service route. And that's what I wanted to do to begin with. And so it made sense to me. I didn't necessarily want to go with AIP to begin with. So I was down for that. We started building Meet. It took us a while to build it. We finally got MeetGreet approved, and we worked out everything with Apple, and then we got Meet approved. And we have been approved now. COVID had hit, so that was a little bit of a setback, but we've been approved now for a few months, and we're getting thousands of users. We get users constantly all day, every day on the platforms. So it's been amazing, and I have been over the moon about it, because it's something that I really wanted to do. And so I want to screen. I don't think it's going to be me, but Meet basically allows anybody to get paid for their time down to the minute, and it has minimum and maximum time settings so that you can set your schedule and organize your time properly on there. And then one thing that I really love about Meet, and I want to let you guys know I'm running out of time here, is that they have a charity where you give back 1% to 100% of your proceeds and raise awareness to charities. So people actually go on there and raise money for charity, and people are money. And it's such a beautiful thing, because if you how I started, really what my goal was, it was always to empower people with an opportunity to give back and to make a difference in the world. And Meet allows people to do that. So it's a timed video chat app. So you're going to get a phone call just like you would on FaceTime. You answer it. It's timed down. You can add more time while you're in there, but at the end of it, it disconnects, so that it's a safe way for people to connect and to make money anywhere they are in the world. And it works with all time zones, and we have users from all over the world as well. It's just been amazing. And if I had not been in fashion, and I had not been a model that traveled and recognized that need that professionals and models and influencers and celebrities would have to basically book their time no matter where they were in the world, whether for meet greets, for fans, or for advice and bookings, have thought of me and built this platform. And so that's how I went from fashion to tech. And it's been an amazing journey. And I am so thrilled to be where we are today.
Thank you for sharing with us such an inspirational story and for creating such a great product. I hope our viewers really get inspiration from your story and will understand how important it is to be open to opportunities the world is giving to you. So thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Everybody have a great day.